We take you back to Cape Town, and the Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana is due to table the 2025 budget. Our Aldrin Sampier is in the parliamentary precinct in Cape Town and joins us now as we continue that coverage build-up. Aldrin, really interesting discussion pieces this morning, and I think my overriding sentiment is for those who are presenting an alternative budget, we heard from the DA earlier as well, to what Enoch Godongwana is presenting. I wish these meetings and these suggestions could happen in earnest and sincerely way before the final ink is on that budget speech so that it does have expression. Nonetheless, we continue to hear alternative views on how the Finance Minister should be designing his speech. What do you have for us where you are?
Yeah, and now we're actually going to be speaking to the EFF, one of the political parties in Parliament, and they also have their views around what it is that they'd like to hear from the Finance Minister, but also some suggestions that they've put through. For instance, increase wealth tax. Also looking at increasing corporate tax. Remember, decision was taken to actually lower our corporate tax from the initial 28% to 27%. Not too sure whether that has yielded any of the intended results when the announcement was made at the time to increase more investment in the country. But let's hear from Omphile Maotwe, who is the Treasurer General of the EFF, joining us now to have this conversation. Omphile, a very good morning to you, or afternoon. Thank you so much for making time for us this afternoon. Your expectations as the EFF around what the Finance Minister is going to be announcing.
No, thank you very much, Aldrin, and greetings to the viewers at home. Look, we want nothing less than a statement that is going to take us from the situation we find ourselves in. So the minister must not even try touch VAT. If anything, the VAT must be reduced from 15%. You remember, Aldrin, that when VAT was increased, it was a temporary measure to try to assist the situation after COVID. But seemingly it has become permanent. And what has that done? It has actually...
No, but VAT was announced before COVID. The VAT was announced before COVID.
Yes, but it was primarily because of the COVID situation that we find ourselves in. So we lost a lot of money during COVID. Companies were closed and all that. So we needed to get an extra money for us as the country. So that's where 15% came in. But at that time, you remember that prior to that, corporate tax was actually reduced. I think somewhere in 2018. So how do you increase VAT and reduce corporate tax? You are basically saying the poor must become poorer and the rich must become richer because you are not tapping into these people that are already rich. That's one. The second one, Aldrin, the minister must increase funding for education and educational purposes. Must increase funding for the military to build military capacity and capability in the country. Must fund DINEL. This thing of every time when there's a funding for SOEs is called bailouts. It's not bailouts. They are given money to run and create capacity amongst in the state. We need state capacity. Aldrin, just before this interview, we were talking about the prices that has gone up. You know, one thing that has crippled us is the tendering system. So with the tendering system, you find that a mic that you ordinarily buy for a cheaper price is now 3 times more, 4 times more. Why? Because there's a middleman. I was telling you that my uncle, who's still alive today, by the way, used to work for Public Works. And they used to do grading of the roads, maintenance of the roads, building of the roads, building of offices, building of hospitals. Today is done by a private person. And that person is now costing the government a lot of money. Scrap the tendering system everywhere. It doesn't matter. Even if it's Public Works. Public Works must not go and hire an outsider to do the work for them. They must have the capability internally to do that on their own. So that's what we're looking for. We need money for healthcare system. Our healthcare in the country has collapsed, completely collapsed. You can never rebuild the healthcare system unless if you inject money in it. And the other thing is, Aldrin, this issue of equitable share for municipalities, it has crippled our infrastructure. Municipalities are unable to maintain their infrastructure of water, of sanitation, of the sewers are running and spilling in people's houses. They are not being maintained. We need to relook at the equitable share because it assumes that municipalities are able to generate revenue on their own, and they are not. Let's go and reopen the special economic zones. You know, I'm coming from Northwest. We used to have big firms there in Mukhwase in the Northwest. Big firms in Babelegi, which is now in Gauteng. All those firms are closed. In Seshego, there used to be big firms. So we need to reopen the special economic zones and actually see to them that they are actually working and producing what they need to produce. We need to, right now, we're spending 330 billion rand servicing debt of government, which is going to be in the last medium-term budget policy statement. The minister said it will grow up to 397 billion a year. The debt is not a problem, but what do you do with that money, with that loan that you have acquired? Use that loan to generate revenue, and then you are able to service that loan. You can't go and ask for money for you to pay the debt and not generate revenue yourself. So we want the government to take that money, build infrastructure, build water infrastructure, services to our people, give service. Let this country be turned into a manufacturing hub, and then you'll see that we'll go somewhere. You know, China back in the days, Aldrin, there used to be a shortage of engineers in the country, in China. And the government went out on a deliberate effort to train engineers across the globe. Some went to the US, to the UK, everywhere, to train engineers because they had a vision of turning China into a manufacturing hub. The economy of China today is so high. Why can't we do that as a country in South Africa? We ought to do that.
Let's then quickly speak about you mentioned now the issue around water and infrastructure. It's a major problem. We are told that maybe the light could come from the public-private partnership through Operation Vulindlela. But then from a local government perspective and having its own capacity to actually make sure that it's able to deliver on those services like water and have the right infrastructure, what should be happening at that particular level? Because you can pump in the money, but do you have the right people in those positions?
So right now, they don't have capabilities, they don't have capacity, financially, but also personnel. Hence, I'm saying to you, let's do the model of China. China went out to train engineers specifically because they wanted to turn China into a manufacturing hub. So let's look at the shortage of skills in the country and say, our biggest problem is water. We need water engineers. We need people who are trained on building infrastructure. I mean, Eskom, for an example, you know those power stations when they were built, that we didn't have the skills. Companies came out to build those things and we are experiencing major problems. Where are the engineers that were supposed to have been trained so they can do that on their own? So it's not just pumping money in there, but making sure that the capacity is there. Yeah. Let's go to the countries that have gone through that situation and say, let's attract them. Let's bring the skills from China, from Russia. Guys, we have a problem here. We have got the money, but we don't have the know-how. So come partner with us, share the skills with us, do the skills transfer. In 5 years, 10 years time, we'll have the skill in the country to do that on our own. So the issue is not only funding, but it's also the skills. We have to balance the two, both the skills and the financial resources.
Let's quickly touch on geopolitics, because that also has an impact on economic growth or even the trade between the various countries. You know, of course, with the United States, your CIC has made his own pronouncements around this and also echoing the sentiments from the president that the country will not be bullied. Should we be hearing anything this afternoon from the finance minister around what happens to the trade relations between the United States as well as South Africa, considering that you also have some congressmen in the US pushing at Donald Trump or the Trump administration to say that, listen, maybe South Africa should lose its AGOA status because of the stance that they've taken against the United States' interest?
So we're expecting the minister to say something, but the president already said something that will not be bullied. But it's just a statement. What does it mean? So US came out and said, we're going to pull out the UN aid from South Africa. What does that mean? The minister must now come and tell us how is he going to close that gap of that shortage of funds. But also it's a wake-up call from us that we should not depend on other countries for anything. Of course, we can't have everything internally, but he who feeds you controls you, Aldrin. And we must be very careful of who actually is aiding you, because now this whole issue is expropriation of land without compensation, nothing else. White people went, you do know that, they went there to the US to say there's farm killings in the country. The DA even went to, before the elections, to say the US must come and also observe on the elections. They actually went to invite them to come and be part of our democracy. So we should not be shocked that these utterances will be made. And it's time that the ANC catches a wake-up call, that you can't depend on any funding. you are going to continue being controlled because these things, they come with conditions. What were the conditions that were attached to this? It was that don't touch the land. Now we're touching the land and then they're pulling out. So, but you've got friends in BRICS Plus. So go and talk to your friends and say, we're in this situation. At the moment, we did not foresee this coming, and therefore come and assist us. But that assistance should not come with conditions that are going to impact on our future as the country. We need to reject any funding or any assistance that come with conditions that don't want to take us forward. We are here 30 years into democracy, Aldrin. The transformation agenda has not fully materialized. That's why you see the financial sector is actually the ones that pushing for the VAT to increase, because they feel that, you know, they own us, in a sense that the president 2 years ago or a year ago said it's not his duty as the government to create jobs, it's the private sector that must create jobs. So you are leaving your own people at the hands of these people who are just here for profiteering purposes. So you can't. They will obviously feel like, okay, we own these things. Without us, they won't have jobs. They're going to continue with inequality, unemployment, and poverty, and therefore we can do as we please. The ANC must really turn back to the people now and stop this neoliberal agenda that they've been pushing for 30 years.
Thank you so much for your time. Omphile Maotwe is the Treasurer General of the EFF on some of their expectations later on this afternoon when the Finance Minister delivers his budget speech. So we look forward to that. And also, as she says, what is the announcement going to be around how do you plug the hole that has been left open by UN Aid?
I'm just really anxious now. How many hours do we have left, Aldrin? 2 hours and 12 minutes, I think, to actually hear what he's got to say. And I also just hope there are not going to be any props. I just want to hear, you know, exactly the nuts and bolts of how we can turn things around.